in 5, 4, 3. Today, we're going to be talking about how to heal your body and how to treat your body when you've been diagnosed with cancer. And I've brought on a very special guest today. We have Dr. Lori Bouchard, who is a practicing naturopathic doctor and someone who I've come to just really know and love on Instagram. We became friends on Instagram, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about what you should do when you're diagnosed. I myself am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with stage 4 thymoma cancer. The doctors told me that there was nothing that I could do. And so I began to investigate alternative therapies and sort of off the market, off label therapies that have reversed my cancer. I went from 9 tumors down to 1. I am almost totally asymptomatic. There are some days where I feel a little bit run down, but I'm almost totally asymptomatic, and I'm living a healthy, vibrant, thriving life. We started this YouTube channel called Beat Cancer with Me, designed to help cancer patients and their loved ones treat serious cancer diagnoses. So, Dr. Lori, thanks so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you on. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and your practice.
Hi, Owen, and hi, everyone listening. Thanks for having me. I mean, your story is very inspiring and you're helping thousands of people. So thank you so much for having me on the show too, and talking about this, which I could tell it's such a passionate topic because so many people need to learn about this. And I actually never thought I would be introduced into the world of cancer. Most people get into this world when they've either a loved one passes from it or themselves have cancer. But for me, it was a totally different scenario. I went through school thinking, okay, I'm just going to, focus on constipation and gut issues and just focus on maybe fertility, like more of the happier things. And right. And no way would I want to get into cancer, like this $1 trillion industry where they're chasing a cure. It sounds just awful, right? Until I saw my first cancer patient in practice about 13 years ago. He was given a month to live. He had cancer he did all the things his conventional doctor said, the chemo, did the surgeries, did everything. So he comes into my office in his wheelchair with his wife, and they're like, you know what, we're here to see you as a naturopath as our last resort. We've tried everything else, and please give us something that we can do because I'm told I'm supposed to die, but I'm not ready to go. And it's so interesting because I feel like a lot of people do come into my office like that when they're like, I've told there's nothing you can do. I've told nothing that I eat matters, nothing in my lifestyle really matters. The chemo just stopped responding. Right. So what now? So this patient was really interesting. He was kind of like my first introduction in practice and with cancer too. I investigated the hell out of this case. I looked at all of the reasons why he could be sick in the first place. I mean, the loads of chemo that he was taking on as well, that's toxic on its own, right? So this patient, we worked together and he ended up living almost a decade longer. He's amazing. So since then, he became a walking advocate for me and saying okay, this doctor helped change away my, I was supposed to be dead years ago. So it's really cool. And I see it was his passion and his wanting to be here for his family, for his kids. He's like, no, not ready to go, not ready to die. So working with cancer patients, I just feel so honored to be with patients who really have this fuel for life, right? And it's this excitement of no one is telling me what's going to happen to my life. No one's going to give me this death sentence, right? When you know that you're meant to be here longer. So it's really cool, this demographic of people that are superheroes in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of us are made super by the doctors who share with us what's really happening in the industry. I was told nothing that I ate will matter, and that even their chemotherapy would only be palliative, palliative, right? It would just ease. The funny thing is they'll give you a better quality of life, and it's just zapping me with all that stuff is going to give me a better quality. I was like, no way, man. If I'm going out without any toxicity or whatever. And then I was sitting on a chair and it was wait a minute, what if you beat this? Right. And so you provide that hope and you provide a process for people to get through. I didn't I didn't have any like direct person I was kind of piecing stuff together that I heard, from here and here. And you have a program. You actually have a pathway that if you're diagnosed or someone you love is diagnosed, they can contact you and go through a program. And so I first want to let everybody know who's watching this today that you can go to drlori.ca, correct?
Yep. drlori.ca. Yep.
And then what do they do once they get there? How do they get a hold of you? Because some people are going to watch this and go, I just want to talk to her. So drlori.ca, and then where do they go if they want to set an appointment with you?
Yeah. So right on that page, you can actually get access right to my calendar and book a discovery call. So we want to know what your story has been like. What have you done? Are you even a good candidate for this? Because some people just are forced to come here by their loved one. And they're like, oh, I heard you helped my cousin. So I'm here now. I want my husband to do everything. And the husband's like, I don't want to do anything. Like, I wanted to take a pill and I really don't want to change a thing. So it's like, so we have to kind of interview to make sure that it's a good fit, because if I care more than you do, then there's a problem there.
That's so big. You're absolutely right. Survivors believe they will survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And It's really cool. Like in my clinic, we have a wall of inspiration where everyone just like writes a little bit about like inspiring other people, kind of about their journey, a quote that they really love, something that just resonates with them. And this wall is so inspirational, and everyone has just like this deeper faith. I never really realized that until I saw this wall. I'm like, whoa, everyone is very, like you do everything you can. And then there's the faith process of just believing you're meant to be here. And there's some higher power that's going to guide you. So it takes away a lot of that fear and that anxiety and I'm sure there's that as well, but it just to kind of like resonate with, okay, there's something here where I'm meant to be here. And they want it. They really, truly believe that, what's meant to be will happen.
Oh, man, that's so big for me. One of my favorite verses is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right? It's everyone knows that verse. Oh, yea, though I walk, and it's all very sad. But here's what I recognize is that I do have a purpose, and I found my purpose through my cancer diagnosis. We'll talk about that in another video, but I was feeling purposeless when I was diagnosed, and I was very like battling with depression, all these things that have since left. But now I know I have a purpose, and I know that there's going to be dark times, right? I know that there's going to be flare-ups. I know that there's going to be, I just did a 24-hour fast. I've done 7-day fasts, and there's going to be these days that are really hard, but those hard days are going to make me more of the person I need to be for the purpose that I was intended for. And so if you're out there right now with cancer and you've been given even if it's stage 2, which I don't even believe in stage 2, right? If your body makes cancer, right, your biggest pathway out is going to be through belief and understanding that. But then the tactical therapies that are available to you to heal, treat, reverse, and all the different types of ways that we can approach that process. Those are some of the things I want to get into today. So Dr. Lori, I'm going to ask you right off the bat, someone's been diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, ovarian, stomach cancer, lung cancer. It doesn't matter what cancer. What do you recommend is the first thing that they should do?
Yeah. And you just nailed it when you explained what you went through. You go through, why is the cancer growing in the first place? So you can't just, hear all these things you can Google online, like, oh, this helped this person for cancer and they cured their cancer with this.
Right.
But not one person has the same combination of things that can drive a cancer in the first place. So it's really like, before you get into treating anything, you have to deep dive into assessing and understanding like the body and why it's happening. Like, what's the toxicity exposure been like? How are they regulating blood sugar levels? What about like epigenetics? Some people just right, they don't get rid of chemicals the same way someone else would be, or even like stress wise, like someone can have the exact same stress as someone else. And you've probably seen this where it's like someone like goes off the handle and they can't sleep for weeks because that stressor. But a lot of that is epigenetics, even the food that you're eating, looking at like what's stimulating all these processes, even immune system, like what could be affecting your immune from activating, other oxidative stress cancers. So even some people who, I heard this recently where someone's like, oh, my friend just passed away from breast cancer and she was the healthiest person ever. She was a marathon runner and this like triathlon athlete. So how does that happen to someone so healthy? But then you look at, okay, what about that oxidative stress that they're constantly putting themselves under being a marathon runner, right? Like you kind of look at it as a teeter-totter. Like if you're too much stress on the system, even a good stress like working out and exercising, are you doing all the antioxidants to help kind of clean up that free radical damage? So looking at each person of like, what is throwing their system off? Even hormones, right? Like a lot of us are exposed to the xenoestrogens or have meats that are full of chemicals and antibiotics, all of that. I mean, I could go on. We look at even the biorhythms of the body. So looking at like, are people connected? I know most of us are connected to our screen all the time, but are they getting out in the sunshine too? Are you setting those biorhythms and establishing that healthy melatonin, serotonin pathways, right?
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is too, looking at your childhood. If there's the early childhood
adverse childhood experiences test. Yes. ACE test. Yeah.
Right. So looking at that and not saying like, oh, you've had trauma when you're young, you're doomed to have cancer. And it's, you're just destined to have it now. It's actually understanding your body, all of those triggers and saying, what can we do now to change it around? What can we now switch over? So not everyone has the same treatment plan based on what they're like. I don't believe in protocols. I don't believe in like one type of cancer. Everyone does the same thing. You have to do that proper assessment and really get to the root of it. Like, let's start cleaning up. Let's start modulating all the reasons why the cancer is growing in the first place.
Okay, that's super big. So step one for cancer patients and caregivers is recognize that your body makes cancer, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to approach why your body makes cancer. And that's where, you can enter into a variety of different therapies. And I want to sort of touch on some of the top therapies that you've seen work for you in your practice. Let's talk a little bit about what cancer is, how it grows. I really want to come back to this trauma thing, but I want to lay a foundation too for anybody who's sort of new at this. Let's talk about what cancer is, how it grows, and then what therapies you would engage in to treat knowing that knowledge.
Yeah. And that's the thing a lot of us don't realize is that we all have cancer cells. All of us, every single one of us has cancer cells, whether it's been able to develop into a tumor or not, that's different. Some people, it takes 10 years to even feel a tumor or a lump or feel something. So it's not that it's like, it just magically appeared, right? Like most people know that by now, it is a process. But it is something that we realize, like, if we're not doing things constantly to kind of clean up our system and to reevaluate, it's like those cancer cells are now having this chance to replicate. So basically, cancer cells are an inability to go into apoptosis.
Yeah.
So they don't go into this cell death process. They continue replicating. And we used to think of cancer as this genetic thing where you were just destined to have it based on your parents having it, your grandparents. But we now know it's more of a mitochondrial issue. So it's the years of mitochondrial damage from everything we said, from toxicity, from hormone imbalance, from cortisol, immune imbalance, all of that, that actually modifies and turns these genetic mutations on or off. So it's really interesting when you look at it that way. Like, you have so much more control in how your body deals with this cancer turning on or off versus it just being, oh, it's genetic, it's in my family.
I want to just really punctuate that the cancer is not genetic. Okay. It is a metabolic disorder, and specifically a mitochondrial metabolic disorder. So for those of you that are new into this space, you really need to be looking at mitochondrial health. That became like the big keyword search term that I was Googling a lot. That led me to Dr. Thomas Seyfried. It's probably how I found you on Instagram and the work that you're doing. So, can we approach quickly that the hospital systems in America and Canada they still follow a genetic, that chemotherapy is a genetic therapy. And I know for me, my experience was when they diagnosed me, they told me that chemo wouldn't help, but that I should start immediately. Can you talk a little bit about chemotherapy? Because I know a lot of people are going to be rushed. Your doctor is going to rush you into chemo, surgery, or perhaps radiation. Can you talk about that? And should we, as cancer patients, follow that order? Should we slow down and wait a little bit? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'd say the best way to even like put an analogy to that is like, imagine your child fell and got a bruise on their, or like cut their leg, just say, and they're bleeding. Would your approach be, okay, I'm going to like rush in, I'm going to like cut that part out, I'm actually going to give it something like burning agent to make that cut disappear and then see what happens? Or are you going to go over to the child, like give them a hug and give them some love and say, let's start like healing the body and saying, okay, your body is this phenomenal tool that we can actually empower it to heal when it's given the right tools, right? So wow. It's very different approaches of, okay, you hurt yourself, let's like attack and kill and cut and burn and do all those things, or let's see what the body needs. And I'm not saying that all chemo is bad for everyone, because I've seen where some people go through the process, they respond, and then they start healing their body, repairing, detoxing, right, and rebuilding. But they have to go through, they can't be just cured from chemo. There's no way. It actually makes your stem cells it makes them angrier. Like it really does.
You're talking about cancer stem cells?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Chemo is just one of the worst things that you can do. But for some cancers where it's very aggressive, there's a time and place for certain things, right? So I'm not like avoiding conventional altogether, but it can never be the only thing that you do. The cancer comes for a reason. And unless you're looking at why it came in the first place, it's always going to come back. Just cutting it out, like it's always going to come back. So that, yeah, I can't say like just doing chemo, because it is that approach. It's like your body needs that TLC of like, what's happening? How can we nourish? How can we support? What's off in the system? And then kind of like pivot and turn, right?
Yeah. Now I grew up in a Listerine culture. So if it burns, it works. Right. So, my response was to go into chemotherapy. I did 10 cycles of chemo before I recognized that the only days I felt miserable is when I was doing chemotherapy. And then I started to look at recurrency rates and how, it comes back, and it comes back immune to that chemotherapy. And so there was a lot of problems there for me. So, as a cancer patient, you're brand new to this process, you were just diagnosed, you want to sort of, and this is me saying this, not Dr. Lori, is just wait a second. Gather your bearings, right? You don't need to rush into that treatment. You don't need to rush into that surgery, but take some time and move at your own pace, because it's whether you get in there this week or next week, it's not going to make a life or death sort of difference. So, let's talk then about some of these therapies that you engage with. We could talk about food and diet. We could talk about maybe some of off-label medications. I know that you've studied with Dr. Nasha Winters. Talk to me about, and I know you can't prescribe, but walk me through a process of what it might look like if I were to come to your office with a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah. So first step, like you said, not making decisions on fear. Like that fear can make people jump into things, having things removed when it maybe not necessary, or choosing things that are just way more toxic than doing harm than good. So that's step number one, collecting all the information, saying, okay, what are maybe 4 different doctors, like interview doctors and say, what is your stance on helping me in my cancer? Like, is it just something that they say, oh, you are going to die next month if you don't do this? then you know that's probably not the right doctor for you. So interviewing, having, all of the information and getting all the perspectives, that's huge. Like no one should jump into anything out of fear, right? So that's number one. And then next, we really want to check to see, like I said, like where in the terrain 10 or in those 10 different things that could be throwing your system off, where do we really need to focus on? So for example, the one therapy, which you've already discussed that you love, is fasting. Like that is one thing that can benefit every single person, whether it's cancer prevention, cancer control, even prepping for chemotherapy, like to help your body respond to medications better. So fasting really helps with how your body goes into autophagy, gets rid of chemicals, helps rebuild healthy new cells. It can help your immune system, modulate inflammation. Like the list is endless on how beneficial fasting is. And people think like, oh, I can't fast for 3 days. There's no way I can do this. But then you think, okay, well, aren't you fasting overnight? Like there's 12 hours right there that you fasted, right?
Yeah.
There was a study too showing where 13 hours of fasting, women with breast cancer, they had a 70% lower risk of cancer reoccurrence. So how cool is that? Like 13 hours, the study didn't even look at like what they're eating. And I'm sure if they cleaned up their diet too, that would be even a more powerful tool of keeping people into remission. So 13 hours is a good goal. And then really expanding that. So even if you can do like 16 hours and do the diet variation. So you're not, if you are underweight, like you're not going to be fasting all the time. You'll have more of a refeeding and amino acid.
I am on 16 hours today. I try to fast 18 hours in a Monday through Friday, and that's intermittent fasting. Every Monday, I do a 24-hour fast as a weekend detox. And on the weekends, I eat more of a paleo diet. I will be honest, like I've done so well with my treatment that I'm maybe not systematically adding ice cream back in, but if there is ice cream, I'll have a scoop and I'll enjoy it. I don't have 2 scoops. Okay. I don't go back for a second bowl. But I also don't want like you guys to hear that, like you just got a cancer diagnosis and you're like, oh, Owen said I could eat ice cream. No way, man. Like immediately look at fasting. What I did was I fasted a day before chemo, the day of chemo, and I fasted the day after chemo. Can you talk a little bit about what like intermittent fasting versus water fasting and sort of why that's beneficial, like the system involved?
Yeah. So water fasting is a great tool just to kind of like reset your gut. It helps with dopamine, helps with just like cleaning up inflammation in your body. I'm actually a really big fan of incorporating other things that won't break your fast during that fasting process. So you can still add in things like fibers and electrolytes, different, sometimes even like amino acids from bone broths, like won't break the fast. So that's an individual thing. Like you want to test what your blood sugar is like, just say first thing in the morning, have whatever food or whatever liquid that you want, and then test half an hour later. If your blood sugar goes up, you know, that's breaking the fast and you shouldn't incorporate it part of the plan.
Okay, so blood sugar going up breaks the fast. Like that's a bit like what is breaking a fast, right? Is been on my mind. So blood sugar going up is breaking the fast, correct?
Yeah, because what you want is your body to produce these ketones. And if you have, there's basically 2 different ways that your body can create energy. The main one is if you have sugars and glucose, right? The other one is through ketones. And so that's what we want, is to get your blood glucose levels so low that your body is creating these ketones out of fat. So whether your own adipose fat tissue or from your diet. So even during a fast, you can take in things like coconut oil or MCT oil with your tea or coffee. That should not break the fast, and it'll help produce these ketones. And that is the magic of fasting, because the ketones help you just feel like, and I'm sure you know what it feels like when you're just like lit up. Like
love it. I'm mentally sharp. I'm optimistic. The dopamine is there in a nice level. Like I love how I feel when I fast.
Exactly. And I even see like with my own kids, if I start getting like super cranky and irritable and everything's annoying me, I'm like, okay, I need to step back and maybe fast for a 24-hour period. And it's like magic. It's like, there's no pill on earth that can do the benefits of fasting. And that's just like mentally, right? Like how you feel, but you think of what's happening physically and that whole process of autophagy, like you can't detox to that level without incorporating a fast.
Okay.
There's no supplement that can do that.
Okay. Let's talk about autophagy. Define autophagy for me in everyday layman's terms. Basically
sweeping out the garbage. So in a house that's full of like, there's mold, just say there's like dust in the cupboards. It's really helped like sweeping things out of the corners and shitting it out.
Getting your body doesn't have food, so it's eating. Autophagy means self-eating, right?
Yeah.
Your body doesn't have food because you're fasting. So it finds the cobwebs and eats the cobwebs and the dust and essentially recycles all, like detoxes that out. So autophagy is getting rid of like those nasty cells. But let's talk about also what cancer eats and can cancer eat ketones? So talk to me about what cancer eats and then the role that ketones play.
Yeah, and it varies. So just say blood sugar for you is a problem. So looking at your hemoglobin A1C, your fasting glucose, your fasting insulin, just say those levels are all high. Your body has an issue with sugar and how it interprets or it absorbs sugars. And so we know that sugar and glucose is a huge driver for cancer cells. I think 80% of them, like a really high percentage, are glycolytic, where they actually feed off those sugars. So if we can control through various things, so metformin is one of those off-label drugs. Berberine, I actually prefer to use berberine because it's equivalent to metformin without all the gut distress. If you can control your blood sugar levels, then like you said, like once in a while, having things that are off the, like on the bad list shouldn't be a problem because your body is now adapted and you can handle it a lot better. But someone who's pre-diabetic or has sugar through the roof, that's going to tip them over the edge. So it's really looking at you as a personalized entity. What does your lab work look like? What's everything look like? And then creating more of that personalized plan.
Now, can cancer use cancer cells use ketones?
No. And that's why there's thousands of studies on brain cancers, right? Like, it's for glioblastoma, like they need to be on a ketogenic diet. It's not even an option at this point. Like the fact that they don't talk about that in mainstream medicine is just like blows my mind. Like, and I have one of the he's a really great surgeon in the States where he does surgeries for patients with glioblastoma, like like constantly, like every few months he's doing these surgeries on these patients. And he started implementing more ketogenic diets and helping these patients in his practice, like hired coaches to help patients do that. And the changes are phenomenal, where he's like, I am so sick of just treating the same person, the same tumor that keeps coming back. So it's really cool to see it from a surgeon's perspective of, wow, you start cleaning up the body, get them into ketosis, using that as a tool to prevent how cancer is growing in the body. So
yeah, that's really good. So the next thing we want all of you listening to recognize today is that cancer thrives on sugar, and that includes fruit sugar. I know you guys don't want to hear, I can still eat fruit. Look, you got to minimize your fruit. And the keto diet is a great resource. You guys got to look into that. There's some videos on my channel here. Dr. Lori can help you set an appointment with her. But cancer eats glucose. Cancer cannot eat ketones. And so when you're on the ketogenic diet and you've got ketones in your bloodstream, you're literally starving out your cancer. Now, I believed in fasting from day one, and I did a lot of research first. Dr. Thomas Seyfried was just like fast. And so I did that. I actually went to a fasting clinic in Ohio, and it's called Dr. Gracie's Fasting Clinic or Dr. Gracie's Wellness Center. And she's actually was trained under Dr. Alan Goldhammer. I'm sure you're familiar with some of his work in the fasting community. So I did a scan before I went to the fasting clinic, and they showed that my tumors were like this big, however big it was. I went to the 7-day water fasting clinic, medically supervised, and I drank nothing but water. As water was at 7 full days, and then 3 days of refeeding on avocados and greens and just real like blended up stuff. And then they sent me home. I came back home and got another scan, and my tumor load altogether had shrunk by around 35% in general. But here's the thing. Since then, it's been almost a year since then, there's been no metabolic activity in my tumors. So even though you can see them, there's been no, like, it's a stalemate. They're not growing. That my last scans, actually, the doctor was like, she's like, this could be a tumor. It could be just scar tissue. She's like, we can't tell. It's certainly not absorbing any of the blood sugar. So fasting is so effective. Let's move on to another modality and talk a little bit about diet, because there's like, oh, I'm in a juice, right? Chris Beat Cancer talks about a whole foods diet, but he's not really keto. I do vegan keto so much. Like, talk to us a little bit about diet plans and what you see as effective for holistically dealing with a cancer problem in a patient.
Yeah. And I think that's such a misconception, or maybe like there are people who treat cancer with one specific diet where they say like everyone needs to go vegan, everyone needs to be ketogenic, like everyone needs to do this one thing that I just think everyone would benefit from. I don't think everyone should be on the same thing. I think genetically, just the way that your blood work looks, even stress, like we need to interpret diet so personalized. So there's like foundational things that everyone should do. So we should all stay away from the processed garbage, from the processed sugars, from deep fried foods, the ones that create a lot of inflammation, even cow milk, anything that's really stimulating IGF-1. So like stimulating growth factors and insulin, those need to all be stayed away from. A lot of people don't tolerate wheat and gluten either. So those are like foundational things that, you know, everyone can benefit from. But some people can actually benefit from having chicken and having turkey and having, if it's a clean source and it's, you know, wild fish, or having eggs once in a while. So it's not everyone should follow the same thing, because they can become deficient in a lot of other things, and maybe like muscle wasting, not getting enough amino acids, feeling tired and exhausted. So everyone should have more vegetables. Like these are just like foundational leafy greens. But you put someone who, just say with advanced pancreatic cancer, you tell them to do a 10-day juice fast where it's all sugars. You're going to spike the insulin levels, you're spiking glucose. They are driving their cancer in a whole different direction. So it's not, everyone should be doing the same thing. So if your blood sugar is on the higher end of normal, so in Canada, we say between 5.5 and 6 or above 6, you don't want to be having more than 30 grams of carbs every day. And so if your juice is like one little juice is 15 carbs, like you can't, like, that's a lot of sugar for a cancer that would be fueled by that.
Yeah.
So having
gasoline.
It's like gasoline. Exactly. And so having other sources of vegetables and having like the low glycemic ones. Yes. Whereas some people, they have their glucose like on par. It's exactly where it should be. And they can do more of the becoming more metabolically flexible, integrate juicing plans, fasting, like really switch it up. And this is what I go through when I work with people. I look at like, what does your blood work look like? What do your genetics look like? Like, let's look at the whole picture and see what is the best for you. Like maybe doing a 24-hour fast once a week would be the best thing for you. And then how the other days look as well. So it has to be personalized. There's not one diet that is great for everybody. And then also a lot of people look at that as like, oh, I'm sacrificing all these things and I can't, and like my life is miserable and I can't do that. So it's like, if that's distressing you that much and you really like, you see it as torture, like what is that doing to your stress hormones?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
a
that
cycle.
anxiety. Yeah. So it's working with each person individually, like if they spent 60 years eating like dog shit, then it's going to
actually dog shit might be better for you than the crap that's at the grocery store. You know, like we stay on the perimeter of the grocery stores. You know, we're in the produce section, and really that's where I spend 90% of my time. But I'm a plant-based keto eater, which means that I plant-based keto Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays, I do more paleo. I allow some carbs in. I really don't have any carbs through the week, though. The carbs that I get come from plants that I eat, right? So it's, or nuts, right? Because macadamia nuts will have like, 2 carbs per quarter cup, but I'm nowhere near 25 carbs per day. And here's the thing that people tell me all the time. They tell me like, well, I could never do that. There's a guy that I get treatment with right now I could never do that. And it's like, this is what I told him. I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to close your eyes right now and imagine that you're dead and that you got to eat all the steak you ever wanted. You got to eat all the corn chips you ever wanted, but you're dead. And your daughter has no one to walk her down the aisle. You'll never see your granddaughters, and open your eyes and tell me again that you can't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But on that note too, it goes a lot deeper than someone just saying they can't do that. Like sometimes they're so metabolically, I don't want to say destroyed, but like on such a different plane of like where you're feeling, like they're way out in left field. And so if you're full of Candida albicans, for example, like you have yeast, like filled in your system, whether that's from side effects of steroids or from whatever drug that they're on, you turn this candida into acetaldehyde, which is like a alcohol fermentation process. People like feel drunk, right? Like they're almost like in a daze, like the brain fog, tired. They feel all those things where it's literally like an addiction to them. They're a drug addict. So when they're like, oh, no sugar for 5 hours, they're actually like a drug addict for this. So it's like, no, I can't do that because I'm so addicted. So looking at like helping that person who's in this addiction mindset, and people who love sugar, like they know it. They know that they'll like kill someone to go to the store to get what they need to get. Right. And so it's like working with someone and saying, okay, let's work on cleaning up this yeast that is literally overtaking your body. So all of the reasons why they could be so like in this mindset of being stuck, right? Like everyone can change, but it's like, why? What's holding them back?
Yeah, that's a great point. I appreciate you putting that in perspective for me, because I forget, especially when you talk to a boomer, someone who's a baby boomer, a little bit older, and grew up on a completely different mindset from me, right? And that's a great perspective. Let's move into stress and how stress feeds cancer. I think this is one of the issues that I struggled with. I thought it was too foo-foo. And please let me be conscious of your time. I know you have patients to see. So talk to us about how stress actually feeds cancer, and how eliminating stress actually helps you heal from cancer.
Yeah. So you think of like our body does the best digestive wise, hormone wise, immune system wise, when we're in a parasympathetic nervous system state. So if you're eating a meal and you're like, and like doing all these things, like there's no way you're getting the nutrients that you need from that meal. Like your body's too much in this fight or flight. And most of us are all the time, whether it's like the news, your work, your kids, like whatever it is, family members who piss you off. It's like, there's always something where it can make you go into this sympathetic nervous system. So that kind of escalates into maybe having crappy sleep, right? So maybe they're up all night thinking about things and they're just like, oh no. And then the next day they want more sugar or caffeine just to kind of keep them awake. So it like ripples into the foods that you're choosing the next day as well. So just this one high stress thing, you don't think of it as like, oh, the stress is causing cancer. It's what that stress is doing to your lifestyle choices, your hormones, your sleep patterns, your biorhythms, the how much caffeine you have in the day, all the things that can destroy your microbiome, your immune system, and how it recognizes the cancer. The other thing, there's a cool study showing how high cortisol, so when you're stressed, your adrenals release cortisol, how high cortisol levels can actually stop the tumor suppressor genes, or like turn these tumor suppressor genes on or off. So when you think of like BRCA1, BRCA2, all these like genetic, oh, I have BRCA1, they show the correlation with cortisol and how it's actually turning these cancer genes on. So that's huge, right? To look at how the stress hormone and how our body is like so perceptive of what's going on. And that's not just stress from like your job, that's even like good stressors, right? Like things where you're just like on the go. So the people who are listening to this and they're like, oh, that's me. I'm always stressed. I'm always worried. I'm always on the go. It's like, you need to plan 10 minutes at least a day of just like chilling out, please. Just be in the moment. Just do, uh-oh, you're frozen here. I thought, Owen, you're really into the conversation, but I think